It's a good idea, not because you necessarily need a resolution, but because...
Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome to the April 15th, 2014 Post Falls City Council meeting. We did start the evening with a workshop at 5 o'clock and learned all about our GIS system, or we're supposed to learn a lot about it, but there was good information presented. Clerk will note that all council members are present. And on announcements, we have a bunch, so bear with me, please. The 10th annual Plant a Tree for Free event was an overwhelming success. Over 3,000 trees were given out by noon. This is the first time in the event's history that we ran out of trees before the end of the event. I'd like to thank our sponsors on that and all those who volunteered. E-cycling event on April 26th at 8 a.m. from 8 a.m. till 2 p.m. at the Post Falls City Hall. Recycle those old electronic items you have at home. While you're there, pick up a free gift and some popcorn. A full list of items that can be recycled is available on the city website. This event is made possible by a grant from Post Falls Sanitation to promote recycling. National Animal Control Officer Appreciation Week is April 13th through 19th. This week we recognize our two animal safety officers, Chris Weeks and Christy Alexander, and our Post Falls Canine Control Center manager, Sherry Benner. Their team dedication for going above and beyond on a daily basis to assist our four-legged residents is appreciated. And I will overemphasize that because I've called them on a couple occasions and they've been wonderful. Telecommunicators Week 2014. Each year, the second week in April is dedicated to the men and women who serve as public safety telecommunicators, also known as dispatchers. In celebration of this year's National Public Telecommunicators Week, April 13th through 19th, 2014, the Post Falls Police Department would like to recognize our emergency communication officers for their service to the community. Thank you to all of our emergency communication officers, Michaela Thompson, Amanda Hughes, Jenny Nixon, Lori Flood, Hillary Wickman, Annette Clark, Emily Morris, Julie Oppedyke, Nicole Leslie, and Supervisors Joni Huska, Lori Sutton, and Laura Claffey. Thank you very much. Post Falls residents, you may be contacted by companies offering insurance on their water lines on your property. Please be aware the city is not affiliated with any company offering insurance programs, and the city of Post Falls does not require homeowners to carry insurance on water lines. Homeowners may want to contact their insurance agent for more information on this type of policy and to check if they currently have similar coverage. This issue comes up every year and it comes across as being an official program or something through the city, and it is not. Budget survey. This year's budget survey is now available online on the city's homepage, www.postfallsidaho.org. The city is seeking input from residents on city priorities. On Thursday, from 8:15 until 9 o'clock, in conjunction with the Post Falls Chamber, we're going to have coffee connections with the mayor, with myself, and it's for an open discussion regarding business concerns and questions. I view this not as an opportunity for me to talk, but for me to listen and see what concerns our businesses have, what we're doing well, and what we can do better. So that's Thursday, April 17th, Post Falls Chamber Building from 8:15 to 9 o'clock. On Thursday, April 17th at the Greyhound Park from 4 o'clock till 7 o'clock p.m., the Post Falls Community Business Fair will take place. There's free admission and free parking. This is a great opportunity to see local businesses. And the Clay Larkin Mayor's Youth Awards is coming up. If you know a young person who deserves recognition for their volunteerism, good deeds, and generosity, nominate them for a youth award. You can download an application or pick one up at City Hall. The application deadline is Friday, May 2nd at 5 o'clock p.m. And then we also want to recognize the Post Falls Lions Club for their 50th anniversary. And Mr. Hissong, I'd like to make a comment.
Thank you. This year is the 50th anniversary of the Post Falls Lions Club, and I think there's very few streets or byways you could move in this town on and not see some of their work over the years. The pavilion down at the park, baseball diamonds. What all have I fallen off of? The head gate down here, rebuilt it for the city. Through the 50 years, they have done phenomenal things. And this Friday at the Post Falls Senior Center, they are having an open house to let anybody that was a lion, is a lion, would like to be a lion, or just the public to come by, have an hors d'oeuvre, and chat and meet with them and help them celebrate their 50th anniversary. And that's at the Senior Center, starts at 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. So if you can, drop by and say hi and thank them for all the hard work they've done through the past 50 years with not only their building projects, but they're noted, of course, for sight and hearing and scholarships for high school kids. So come by and say thanks and have an hors d'oeuvre with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Skip, and thanks to the Lions Club. Believe me, the contribution you folks have made to the community is very much appreciated. Would like to announce that we do have one public hearing tonight, and it's on the Jacklin annexation. There were originally two, but one was removed, so the only public hearing we have tonight is on the Jacklin annexation. And if you do wish to comment, there are forms on the podium you can fill out and turn into our clerk. With that, Scheller, any amendments to the agenda?
We have none tonight, sir.
Are there any declarations of conflict? No. Seeing none, would you please read the consent calendar?
Item A is minutes from April 1st, 2014 council meeting. Item B is payables March 25th through April 7th, 2014. And item C is an easement agreement with the Vista Corporation along Hayden Avenue.
Any questions? If not, I entertain a motion.
Move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion seconds. Further discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Henderson,
Aye.
Hissong,
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the public hearing, and it is on the Jacklin annexation, southeast corner of the Beck Road interchange. And with that, I'll open the public hearing. Hillary will be presenting.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As the Mayor mentioned, I am presenting the Jacklin annexation, case file A-14-01. The applicant is the Jacklin Land Company, and the representative is Jack Smetana with Frame and Smetana, and he is here this evening. The requested action is for the council to review and approve the proposed annexation and the industrial zoning, and this was recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. There was a public hearing held on March 11th by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and after receiving testimony and hearing staff report, they determined that they would recommend to the City Council to support the annexation and the requested industrial zoning. Let's see, that one won't go. The project location is generally located where the asterisk is indicated there. It's at the southeast corner of Beck Road and the Point Parkway interchange. Parcel information is it's approximately 20.76 acres, and that includes only 1.536 acres of real property, which is the Jacklin's property. The rest of it is road rights of way. And this annexation, I just want to point out too, the staff did work with the Jacklins on bringing in the road rights of way with the property as well. That's why it's such a large piece of property. Current land uses are vacant and road rights of way. Current zoning is industrial in the county, and the surrounding uses and zoning are industrial to the west, which is county, and also that would be the Jacklin Seed property to the west. To the east and to the north are also industrial, so the east Greyhound Park, and the north across the highway would be Expo location, and then to the northwest is the point of Post Falls, which is commercial, water provider and sewer, both being city of Post Falls. Here is the more of the site specifics. You can see the outline of the property, and then the hatched property is indicated there with the city limits showing as well, and then the zoning boundaries and the county properties. This zooms in a little bit more. The property highlighted in red is the real property owned by Jacklin Land Company, and as I mentioned, that's only the 1.5 acres, and this shows the surrounding uses. This next slide shows the property. You can tell in the The red is the property I just showed, which is outside of the city. This little gray sliver is in the city limits. And so when the Beck Road interchange was created, or was developed, that it created this segmented parcel. And so there's this issue now where part of it's in the city and majority of it is in the county. So trying to rectify this with the annexation request. So that completes the introduction. The applicant is here, as I mentioned, then I'll present the staff report.
Any
after.
questions of Hillary at this point? Thanks, Hillary.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jack Smetana with Freeman Smetana Engineers. Representing Jacklin Land Company this evening. I'll be repeating, if I explain the application in detail, I'll be repeating a lot of what Hillary just told you. Again, it's a isolated parcel of land that was created as a result of the Beck Road Interchange project. It's roughly where the old fire pond was that served Jacklin seed plant. And it's partly in the city and partly in the county. Jacklin Land Company, upon the completion of the Beck Road project, wanted to annex it into the city. The Beck Road Interchange project provided utility services to this isolated parcel. When we came to the city to make application, found out that they concurrently were working on the 19-plus acres of right-of-way annexation, so we collaborated, combined efforts, and created a full meal deal type application for you to review tonight. And staff report indicates that the planning department and engineering department concerns are addressed and that's in compliance with annexation policies and comprehensive comprehensive plan goals and policies. The Planning Commission, as Hillary said, considered this application in a public hearing and voted unanimously to recommend the industrial zoning request. And so with that, I would simply ask for your approval of the annexation request with the industrial zoning and stand for questions.
Any questions from Mr. Smetana? Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
Staff report, Hillary?
All right, so the planning division comments are that the property is within the city's area of city impact, and it is a logical extension as it's adjacent to the city limits. The industrial zoning is appropriate, and smart code was not preferred. It was obvious with just the small parcel size and the fact that it's road rights of way and surrounded by industrial uses that smart code would not be the desired zoning, and then it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. From the engineering division, under transportation, they have said it will not adversely affect the transportation system, and improvements to the roadway, sidewalks, curb and gutter, stormwater, and roadway illumination were all constructed with the interchange. Under water reclamation, the facilities were also constructed with the interchange. There is already existing sewer stub to the site, and there will be temporarily the need for a pressure service, sewer service until the new lift station is constructed, and engineering staff has reviewed the plans for that lift station, so that won't be an issue. And domestic water, the facilities are also available, and water was stubbed to the site. And there's available capacity for both. We received comments from the police department, Kootenai County, and Idaho Department of Lands, and they all indicated that they didn't have any issues or concerns with the requested annexation. So that completes the staff report. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions, Hillary? Thank you, Hillary.
Okay, great, thank you.
Shannon, are there any
I have,
folks who want to speak or comments to be read?
I just have one, and it was from the applicant representative who just spoke.
So I don't imagine, Jack, you would want to need to come up and speak again? And with that, I would assume then there's no need to rebut anything you've said?
Yep.
With that, I will close the public hearing. Council deliberation.
Looks like a real logical thing to do.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's just a
I was
natural
going to use the
extension.
term no-brainer. It's kind of a housekeeping, it looks to me.
With that, I'd entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the annexation and industrial zone for file number A-14-01, the Jacklin annexation.
Second.
Motion seconds, further discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Hissong.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thorson.
Thank you, motion carries. Next item is unfinished business. We have none. Next item on the agenda is citizens' issues. This section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the council regarding a city-related issue that is not on the agenda. We would ask that you come up and give your name, and you'd be limited to 5 minutes.
My name is Tim Short. I reside at 611 East First Avenue in Post Falls. Mr. Mayor and council and staff, I've come here tonight to address you concerning a matter of public health and safety that is a matter of concern to me and a larger contingent that is here with me tonight. If you've paid attention to the news of local communities in our area of late, we know that there's been some debate about the so-called bikini baristas of Spokane Valley, and other communities around here. It's come to our attention that one such establishment, at least, has already started to try and do business here in Post Falls, and that's of grave concern to us, especially as we are citizens who enjoy the community of Post Falls and its family values and the greater sense of community that comes in living in such a wonderful town as Post Falls. This such establishment really has, this type of business really has no place here in our minds. And we feel that there are ordinances on the books that address such an establishment and such a thing that would allow for us to enforce these ordinances and asking these businesses to relocate or move on. We have brought this to the attention of some staff and received a letter in response that alluded to an Idaho code that precluded local municipalities from enforcing such laws that would govern what they refer to as obscene material. We don't feel that this falls underneath that, but we rather feel that local code actually takes care of the issues. First and foremost, Title 5, Chapter 5.08, addresses sexually oriented businesses. In that, one of such businesses is defined as an adult cabaret, where a nightclub, bar, restaurant, or similar commercial establishment regularly features persons who appear in a state of nudity or semi-nude. The bikini baristas that we've seen in other communities have really pushed the limits of that and would actually fall underneath that definition. They cross that line. And we fear that might move into our community, and we'd like to make sure that you are aware that this is on the books. This is something that should be enforced in our community, that if businesses wish to act in such a way, that they would have to be licensed with the state of Idaho, and that would require a lot of different things. One of which means that they can't be within 10 feet of a patron. They'd have to be on a stage 2 feet above the ground, and that they wouldn't be able to have contact with those patrons. They also have to be, a certain distance from any school or preschool or any other community infrastructure. Along those same lines, and at the same time, in reviewing this issue, we've noticed that in the city of Post Falls, at least from what we can tell, that indecent exposure is limited to full nudity, and we would like that to be addressed as well. In the books, there's a definition for semi-nudity, which is very clear. The Idaho State Code also addresses such a thing. We would like to see that indecent exposure is extended not just to nudity, but also anybody who appears in a semi-nude state anywhere within the city in public. In order to keep our places safe, to make sure that our beaches are kept appropriate and that our public spaces are appropriate, so that our children are kept innocent, and that we don't have any establishment that starts to erode at the basic decency and morals that we all hold so dear here in our community. I believe that's the bulk of my comments, so I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Anybody else wishing to address the council?
Yeah, my name is Nick Smoot, and Councilman Joe Molloy asked me to, if I'd like to come and share a few things today. And I'm new to the area coming back. I've lived in Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene for majority of my childhood, and then traveled all over doing startup businesses. And I'm coming back to the region, putting an emphasis on startups and trying to curate a culture of innovation and bringing, I guess, new opportunities and new jobs to the region around startups. And a lot of you have probably seen shows like Shark Tank or different things of that nature that kind of have revived that interest in that space for people. And I'm a big advocate of technology, and even in the region here, we've got 70+ different software companies, I believe, between kind of in the North Idaho area. And so I'm in the effort of grouping those together right now. I'm sure we'll probably have more of a dialogue in regards to Post Falls and how to curate that, I guess, a little bit more effectively. I know there's the effort out at the kind of by the Jacklin space right now. Even out there, I work with NIC on some of that and a few other groups. But specifically, there's an effort to focus on robotics, which is kind of interesting. And this summer, we're doing a think tank that involves different robotics experts. One of the gentlemen, he oversees Google self-driving cars. I don't know if you've ever seen those before, but they have taken blind people to go run their errands and do different things. So he'll be here this summer. We've got a few other people like DARPA, which is military robotics, coming in. And I've been surprised to see how many people in the area here are involved in robotics in some capacity, even in Post Falls. There's one company, I think, of 80+ employees that works with motion controllers and different things of that nature. So really, that's all I have to share. I'm sure, like I said, we'll be revisiting things, and I hope to work with the city to find a way to put a positive focus on helping the schools connect to the next step. I think that's kind of been a missing piece in the area here for robotics. I know a lot of the talented kids who are placing at nationals end up going off to Carnegie Mellon and MIT and Yale, and I think that's a shame. So that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you, and welcome back to the area. And
Thank you.
It's very gratifying to see the robotics and the technology industries growing in our area, so we appreciate what you're doing in that regard.
Thank you. That's a fascinating thing. To be honest, I've been very shocked stepping into the area and kind of ringing the bell around robotics and how quickly so many people have come out of the woodwork, and the amount of people working with DARPA, NASA, other large manufacturers. It's impressive.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Going back to Mr. Short's comments, we have got legal opinion on that, and Mr. Cafferty and Mr. Short cited some codes, and I know you've already researched it, but if you would take those into consideration and update us on that as well, just so we know what we're looking at in that regard.
I'm presuming you don't mean at this moment.
No.
I never assume. I just wanted to, because I don't have your city ordinance in front of me right now. So.
No,
but yes,
but
I did get that down, Title 8, Section 5, that he made reference to.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. And I'd just like to make a comment too that years and years ago, when I was on the council and State Line Showgirls was coming in, we had 2 or 3 times as many folks here. And what we had informed them is that in that regard, it was state statute, but that the city had taken, with Mr. Mason, had contacted a family law practice down in Arizona to find out what a municipality could do legally to be as restrictive as possible without violating the law. So we do take it serious. And we solicited input from a very successful family practice firm in the Phoenix area or in the Arizona area that specialized in that. So it's not something, I address this to Mr. Short, it's not something we take lightly. And we do appreciate your comments. There are certain things we can do and things we can't do, but again, we'll have legal counsel take a look at it. Next item, under new business, Bicycle and Pedestrian Prioritization Plan 2011. Mr. Melvin.
Yeah, Mayor, City Council, in 2011, city staff was directed to prepare a bike and ped prioritization plan with an emphasis on bringing outlying areas of the community closer to city center, and also in connecting some important links within the city. We completed that plan in 2007. It was never brought forward for formal adoption. Part of it was that there's not funding available for that. However, as we're pursuing grants for bicycle and trail projects, we're finding that adoption of a plan is critical in being more favorable from the funding agencies. And also our strategic plan had an element in there that recommended that we bring forward this plan for adoption. So what I would like to do is go through a brief process of describing what we did going through the plan, and then describe the top 5 bike and ped projects that we had come up with. And I should be moving here. 20 pages.
I think it's more than 20.
So the first elements of the process is that we just took the city maps and looked at the systems and needs of that map throughout the city, just took highlighters and said, where do we know the trail systems are? Where do we have breaks and linkages? How can we get better to connect to the city center? We also then established some recommended projects. These are the maps. They're not in a detail that can show you all of the projects, but this is kind of a product that we came up with when we went through and highlighted our projects and just took markers and said, what projects are we missing? What projects are the most important? That was on the bike and the ped. One of the slides that for some reason hasn't come up here and I'd like to talk about a little bit is the team that was involved in this project. And it consisted of members from Parks Department, Planning Division, Street Division, and the Engineering Division. That was the team that got together and collaboratively put together that project. So I wanted to give credit to all of those folks. So the next step in it is that we prepared cost estimates for the project. This is just a brief example. I won't go into detail on it, just one of the more simpler ones showing that we spent a bit of time looking at specific details, assigning costs to those elements to get fairly accurate predictions on what our cost of the plan would be. We then set some ranking criteria, and this was an innovation that Mr. Paulus had that kind of helped us go through and how are we going to rank the projects. And so all of the projects that we had come up with are on the left-hand side of the sheet, and there's probably about 18 bike and a little bit more of that of the pedestrian projects. And so we came up with a scoring and a ranking system on that. And that ranking system was, does that project connect the city center connect to the city center with commercial areas? Does it connect city center with residential areas? Does it connect the residential areas with schools? Does it connect the residential areas with commercial properties? Does it connect the residential areas with the existing parks and trail systems within the community? Is there very little property acquisition? Is it unlikely to be built by development activity? Sometimes we might not put a project on a priority list because we know that a developer is going to come along in a few short years and that'll be part of their frontage improvements that they will build. Does it provide long-term connections? Is it lasting for the community? And does it address safety concerns? So that is the ranking that we came up with. From there we went down and established, whittled all of these projects down to 5 top bike. Oh, the next step we did is we sought public input, We posted an ad in the paper. We put comment forms on the city website. We didn't get a great deal of comments, but we did get some comment forms, and I think those were incorporated into the report that we had forwarded to Mayor and Council. So we sought public input. Then we established what we were recommending be the top 5 bicycle and top 5 pedestrian facilities. From the top 5 bicycle facilities, the number 1 was the Centennial Trail improvements. There were 3 portions of the Centennial Trail improvements that we were recommending. One is at the intersection of Pleasant View and River Bend. The landings aren't real good to go through there on a bicycle. It's a little disjointed, so there's some improvements we wanted to make at that area. We wanted to take the portion of the Centennial Trail that is kind of disconnected between Lincoln and Bay Street that currently runs down and runs along the street. We would like to remove that from the street and establish a separated trail. And then also the first 3 blocks on Ross Point south of Celtice Way, there's some connections that would be nice to be made in that area. Mullen Avenue from Chase to Lincoln Street, bicycle lanes on that road. Lincoln Street from Mullen up to Pole Line. There's a lot of connections here with you'll notice between the schools and also getting in the city center and the library and the bike and ped was a priority for us. So Lincoln Street from Mullen to Pole Line is also some bicycle facilities. Compton Street from Mullen to 12th Avenue, that is our least expensive project on the list, involved a little bit of widening and some lane striping. That might be one that we might come forward in the future and try to find some internal funding for. Another bicycle facility that we wanted to complete was on Pole Line Avenue from Chase to Spokane Street. From the top 5 pedestrian projects, 7th Avenue, beginning from the connection from 7th Avenue between Compton to 7th and between the intersection of 7th and Compton to Spokane Street. A lot of that will be done with our 7th Avenue improvement projects that you'll see us coming forward with. Celtice Way to Bay Street, sidewalk on the north side of Celtice Way. There's a lot of pedestrian activity through that section there, and there's just currently a goat trail, essentially, that folks are traveling on. The third project is Celtice Way to Bay Street on the south side of the project, south side of the street there. 12th Avenue from Chase to Spokane Street on the east side of Chase Road by Celtice Elementary, and then also along 12th Avenue to Spokane Street to complete full pedestrian facilities along those areas. 12th Avenue from Spokane Street to Idaho Street, sidewalk on one side of the roadway. So we recognize that here are the estimated costs of those 10 projects, the 5 top bike and the 5 top ped. We recognize that the funding is not available. We're not, with adoption of the plan, doesn't mean that we're going to be providing general fund dollars to complete those. It makes that plan much more solid when we apply for grants and other funding sources. And it also puts the mayor and council in alignment with city staff on our recommendations with that. So with that, we'll stand for any questions and comments you might have, and then allow council to take it under consideration.
Bill, I had a couple questions.
Yes.
And I think you mentioned it. By approving this plan, we are not approving any expenditures at this point.
That is correct.
And then some of the costs, when I was looking through the numbers, I know you have to come up with cost estimates, but you were looking, some of them, I think most of them had $10 a square foot for right-of-way. Is that reasonable? Is that, and this plan is from 2011.
Right.
Is it something that needs to be updated, or is it even a big issue at this point?
I don't see it as really a big issue. You know, when we worked on the Mullen Avenue project, we were paying in that, $8 to $12 an hour range of what we had for right-of-way in there. These costs also don't include like appraisal costs and hiring an appraisal to go out and do that work. Those are embedded into more of the design work. We also try to be a little conservative in these. We don't want to have these projects with the cost too low, go and get a grant award, and then if you're trying to figure out in the end how we're going to fund them. We don't want them so large that we kill the project, but we tried to be a little bit conservative with them. So we were comfortable with those numbers as we had presented.
And the last question I have is, it was from 2011. I know it just never got in front of the council. Does it need to be updated, reviewed, or are you okay with where it's at?
I think I'm okay with where we're at. We have the same staff members that are aboard with all of those divisions, individual divisions that had worked on the plan, and I believe that we're all comfortable with where it stands.
Thank you.
Today, yes.
Any further questions? Linda?
So are you
Yes, Linda.
looking for us to adopt the plan tonight, a motion to adopt the plan?
That is what we're seeking, is a motion to adopt the plan. And then as we apply for other grants to maybe implement some of these projects, we could say that the plan was adopted by City Council. It's a question that we often see within the grant application forms is there a plan, and was it adopted, and when?
Skip?
Bill did a great job of covering this in about 10 minutes, but the actual staff report goes on for 40 pages, something of that nature. And I gotta admit, I don't always read every page of these things. This one I did, and I just want to thank staff. This is a marvelous job. Every time I looked at the dollars, I got a little squeamish, but you guys really went over the top with the amount of work that's in here. The only thing I found that was real disturbing was your public input was pretty low. If there was some way to go back and ask some more people to participate in that, I think it'd be great. I love the plan just the way it is. But I just want to thank you guys for 2.5 years or whatever it's been of really putting it to the grindstone there and doing a great job.
Thank you.
Alan?
Bill, you mentioned the funding is basically by grant. Do we allocate any funds annually for bikes and pedestrians?
We do not. And it's one of those things that we've discussed, is trying to request at the time of budget of having a certain amount of dollars set aside for grants that come up through the year. We occasionally will miss some opportunities because the requests for grant applications come forward sometimes in May or June of a year. Budget was passed the previous year. We don't have dollars available to do them, so we'll miss some opportunities. So we have had some discussions on moving forward requests to have, every year some dollars set aside for grants that we could all come to the mayor and council for and say, here's an opportunity. If none of those are projects that would interest the community, it would kind of roll back into general fund the next year or build a bigger pool to pursue grants with. So it's always those matching dollars is what drives us with that. So.
I guess I would encourage you to bring forward some request for some funds. I mean, if we wait for grants, this is never going to happen. And if we keep missing the grants because we don't have any money, then it's really never going to happen.
That is where we can leverage our dollars the best, I think would be that. So that is one of those things that we're going to see would be a request to either build up funds to pursue grants or build up funds to actually do these projects. And we recognize it's not going to happen in 1 or 2 years. There's a few dollars here.
Okay.
Yeah, he answered the question when you were talking about having the funding, then missing opportunities. The missed opportunities was not having the matching funds.
Correct.
For grants. So
just because if their request fell out of cycle with our budget cycle, yes.
Skip.
Bill, in our impact fee funding for roads and so on, when we do an improvement on a road, is it allowable to include bicycle trails as part of that expansion and using the impact fees then for that?
To a degree. There's the elements of our impact fees were capacity and safety issues relative to new growth. So going back to existing deficiencies, impact fees weren't to go and fix all the problems that we existingly had. So we use some judgment on how much of this is relative to new growth, how much is in existing deficiencies, and we have built sidewalks along some of the projects that we've used impact fees for. 7th Avenue is one that we'll be using some of those dollars for. So it kind of depends on where the project is, what's happening relative to growth that's driving a lot of that need.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Council, how do you want to act?
I'd move to adopt a bicycle and pedestrian prioritization plan 2011.
Mr. Mayor?
Second.
It's a recommendation that we do that by resolution, so if
Bring
we could
back-
have the motion be
bring
to
back.
bring back a resolution to adopt.
That's
Thank you.
fine with me.
We had a second?
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Isson,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Bill. Thank you and the group who was involved. It's very good information.
Yeah, good stuff.
Next item on the agenda is ordinances and resolutions. We have one of each. The first is an ordinance dealing with fiscal year 2014 budget amendment.
I would move to place the ordinance for the fiscal year 2014 budget amendment on its first and only reading by title only while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Henderson. Aye. Isson,
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Motion passes. You're on, Mr. Cafferty.
I'm ready this time. City of Post Falls, ordinance number yet to be assigned. This is an ordinance of the City of Post Falls, Idaho, amending the annual appropriation ordinance 1252 for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2013, to reflect the receipt of unscheduled revenues and to authorize expenditure of previously unbudgeted fund balance, increasing and establishing the appropriations for expenditures in various departments and funds, providing that the tax levy upon taxable property within the city is not affected hereby, providing that all ordinances in conflict herewith are superseded by this ordinance to the extent of such conflict, and providing that the ordinance shall be effective upon its publication date.
Move to approve the ordinance fiscal year 2014 budget amendment and to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion seconds. Further discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Isson,
Aye.
Henderson. Aye. Malloy,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is resolution dealing with facility use policy.
Move to approve the resolution with the facility use policy.
Second.
Motion second. Further question? Clerk, please take the roll.
Isson,
Aye.
Henderson. Aye. Wilhelm,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is administrative staff reports. We need to set a council budget workshop date.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I need to set a budget workshop, and so Shelley had asked that you bring your calendars and throw some dates and times out. We had, last year was in the evening, but I'm not opposed to having a budget workshop in the morning if that works best for everybody.
Last year was in the evening at the request of a couple citizens, so more citizens could
Yes,
participate.
that is true.
And the citizen that requested it didn't show up.
That is true.
So we had one citizen, so
Citizen.
my preference is to go in the morning, but I
Okay.
will be flexible.
Right. And so
Have you got a suggested date,
I don't have it.
Jason?
I'm open for any suggestion the council has. Last time when we had a workshop, I threw a couple dates out, and it didn't work because somebody wanted to have it on I wanted a Tuesday or a Thursday, but then we had a conflict. So I'm open to any suggestion the council might have.
Jason, can you repeat the time frame which we normally do the workshop? It's from the end of April to middle of May. I can't remember what your dates are.
Yeah, you're right. It is from the end of April to about the end of May is what I had anticipated. Is that what you were asking, Shelley?
Yes, what the frame was. for
Yeah,
it.
the frame's from the end of April to the end of May.
Well, since nobody's speaking up, for me personally, the evenings work best.
Okay.
6 o'clock or later, or Friday afternoons are good too. Mornings, I got to take PTO.
We can do it at 5.
5:30 is okay.
How about other input?
Why don't we do Friday if he can do early evening on Friday?
Or afternoon?
Afternoon, Friday is fine. Anytime after noon on
Does that
Friday is
work
fine.
for you?
That'd be just fine.
Does that work for you? That doesn't matter to me.
Depends on the date.
Does that work for you, Carrie?
Friday afternoon works for me, except it's got to be in May.
Okay.
Okay.
Should we do it early May?
What, Friday,
For
May
the
2nd?
early part of May, I'm available, the others are
Early
not.
part of May that the.
What about May 9th?
As I say, the 2nd or the 9th is a Friday.
I have something on the 7th, or 2nd, I
Okay.
can't do.
And I'm out of town on the 9th.
I come back.
May 9th?
The 9th, I'm,
9th.
Friday, May
Ron's
9th?
gone.
I have
About the
May 9th.
16th?
problem on the
16th?
You have a problem with?
yeah, on the 9th.
Okay, 9th,
16th.
We were so almost there.
I'm out of town.
Skip's
Yeah,
gone.
the
too.
9th and the 16th, neither of those work for me.
Okay.
2nd doesn't work for Alan.
We have 23rd.
That doesn't work for me.
How about we do this? Can we,
Skype it.
can we?
Wait a minute, 23rd does work for me. I'm sorry.
23rd works?
23rd works perfect for me.
the 23rd of May?
Yes.
No, I can't do it then.
I'm glad I didn't
How about
have a
we
couple
all
days.
send you an email tomorrow with the
With
dates we
dates.
can do,
That'd be fine.
and see if you can find one date in there that all of us hit.
Okay,
Perfect.
that'll work.
Work.
Otherwise, we could keep this up. I think the audience is enjoying our banter here.
I'll take your 23rd and I'll raise you by a week.
Okay.
Okay, so we
that'll
will
work.
get dates to
Okay.
you.
Times,
All right.
right? And times?
And times.
And times, okay.
So
That
can
was
be the
the-
2nd or the 9th?
No, the 9th doesn't work.
9th doesn't work.
Closest to work.
Basically, no Friday
9th doesn't
works
work, but the
for
2nd
everybody.
does.
I think the 2nd didn't work out. Anyway, we'll send in dates.
Okay,
We'll
that
get it
sounds
taken
good.
care of. Thank you.
Thank you.
2nd.
You thought
Send
being,
them to Jason or Shelley? Okay.
and you thought being the finance director would be easy.
Well, that's the last time I had some dates, and I remember
Well,
the
when
same
you
kind
have
of
6
situation,
people.
so
It's kind of like herding cats, right?
sometimes getting 7 people together is kind of hard.
Council comments, next item on the agenda. Anybody on the council have comments? And seeing none. Mayor comments. Don't have any at this point that I can think of. I'm sure I'm missing something, but it'll come back in 2 weeks, so.
Plenty of announcements.
Yeah, we have plenty of announcements, that's
3
right.
weeks.
That's right, 3 weeks. Next item, we do need an executive session,
And how long?
not
10
to exceed 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Move to enter into executive session pursuant to the Idaho Code 67-23451B to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent, that no action will be taken during the session, and the session will last no longer than 10 minutes.
Second.
Motion second. Clerk, please take the roll.
Larson,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Henderson,
Hi,
Isong,
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. We'll enter executive session.
10 minutes.
Call the meeting back to order. Is there any motion to come forth?
Adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.